We are live! Thank you, guys. Yes, that is the energy I need today.
Wow.
Hello! Drew, you weren't a part of the air horn, and I'm really disappointed in you.
I didn't know we were doing that. No, I missed a memo somewhere in the Slack.
And no, RK just decided to do it, and then Harrison just jumped right in.
The second Arcade did it, it just reminded me of being on the DNVR show, and just like it's just a natural reaction whenever I hear an air horn to just air horn in response.
It's like an actual grading there.
Yeah, call and response type deal.
Doing a Pavlov's dog type of thing.
Oh, God. All right, guys, you've heard me say it many times before, but WGT Golf is the best game on your phone. It's the most popular golf game in the world, and it is also the official gaming partner of DNVR. If you haven't downloaded it yet and played against us, the DNVR fam, in all of our tournaments, don't worry. You can download it right now and play in our tournament this weekend, which is called The Face-Off. DNVR versus DNVR2. Rep your clubhouse in our inner family clash on WGT Golf. Who do you think is going to win, guys?
I mean, isn't this like the varsity team playing the JV team?
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
I just feel like all the early adopters were in on DNVR 1. And
here's the problem. DNVR 1 has to carry people like me and Drew, though.
I was going to say, that's the biggest issue is DNVR 1 has the staff in it, and most of us suck, other than Patrick Lyons and like Adam.
Whoa.
And,
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
We got Wind and RK here who are pretty good.
I believe both me and Harrison have had a top 10 finish on the tour this year.
I won the first event. First ever WGT event. I was first.
The disrespect, guys. All right.
As long as there's not number 18 on St. Andrews. Or that one on St. Andrews that like hooks around to the right and you have to drive it over the building.
Yeah, over that wall there. Yeah,
that one kills me every time.
It's like a mind F every time you stand up to that tee shot.
As we were saying, besides playing tournaments, what?
Do we know what the format is?
The format is win or lose. That easy.
We need Adam here. So is this just whoever's representative wins?
I think there's going to be a leaderboard compiled of just the top 15 scores combined from DNVR 1, DNVR 2. And then, I guess the winner just represents which clubhouse wins, I guess.
All right, good to know my score won't matter at all then.
Awesome.
If you want to play in this weekend's tournament, download WGT today and join the DNVR Clubhouse by going to dnvrgolf.com. Welcome into the Denver Sports Podcast. I am your host, Allie Monroy, and with me today I've got Rudo, RK, Drew Creasman, and Wind Harrison. Are we just calling you Wind now? I see your name is just Wind. Would you prefer me to call you Wind or Harrison?
On the DNVR show, we've only ever gone by just one name, so I went with Wind over Harrison.
Four-letter names are in.
Harrison over Harrison.
Harrison.
All right, well, Wind. I think. I had to ask the other Jersey guy on your podcast to say the name there.
During our
that's not a
show.
That's like a New York Jewish thing, the way you say it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not just a Jersey
It started with Harrison's
New York
dad.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from New York, right?
Yeah, it's a New York thing.
Yeah.
This podcast is, of course, presented by Breckenridge Brewery, so join us in drinking some Breck Brews by grabbing a 15-can pack of Mile High City Copper Lager or your favorite Breck Brew, but you can find that Mile High City Copper Lager at Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits, as well as most grocery stores and Costco. So I gotta drink my coffee first, but then I'll dig into my Mile High City. Who else is drinking?
I'm
drinking,
not
alone on the Friday?
Not
you're on your
currently
own.
drinking a beer. No.
I drank all of my good beer, so I have to settle for this.
Boo. Drew, we are are having Kyle Freeland on the DNVR Rockies podcast. So we're going to try and go quickly, but Drew may have to hop out of here to go hang out with Kyle Freeland. So we're just going to jump right in first onto baseball being back and getting your input on that, Drew. Oh, am I frozen?
No, we got you.
Good.
Oh, you guys are all frozen.
Oh.
I can overhear Ryan. So, okay, it's really weird that you guys are all frozen. Oh, okay, I got it. That's normal. I was like, I don't know what's going on. So we're going to jump right into that. And then after that, we're going to talk about mascots. If we like them, which one's the best in Denver, all that good stuff. So, Drew, baseball is back. We are finally happy to see that. There was an agreement reached. Can you go into a little more detail? I know you did a few live shows right after some of the news broke. Could you just kind of explain your thoughts and break down for the people who might not understand what was happening?
Yeah, I'll do my best. It was a long and complicated and almost wholly unnecessary 2-month fight between the MLB owners and the MLBPA. As quickly as I can, an agreement was reached essentially right after everything locked down and we knew there was going to be no baseball for a while. In March, the players and owners agreed to basically to terms, to a schedule, to prorated salaries, to postseason whatevers, the whole thing. There was an agreement in place. And then there became a disagreement about that agreement, whether or not the owners truly meant that this was only good if fans were going to be able to attend, which to me is absolutely insane because nobody ever believed that fans were going to be able to attend games this year. But the owners then made the argument that that agreement that they reached was null and void because there won't be fans in the seats. And then a giant fight broke out about how to divvy up the money, how many games to play, how many extra things needed to be in place to take care of players. That this whole thing became an absolute nightmare. It is my opinion that the owners are the ones who forced the hands pretty much the whole way. I do think at the very end the players took a slight misstep by not accepting the very final offer that the owners put on the table. But they did so essentially so that they won't have to give up their right to file a grievance against the league, which absolutely may need to be necessary with the new CBA on the horizon. So all of that confusingness sort of out of the way. The long and short of it is they're going to do almost exactly what they agreed to do in March. Almost exactly. They're just going to play 60 games, which we didn't know how many games they were going to be able to play until we knew some more about this whole COVID situation. And so, ultimately, they didn't need to do all of this. It created a lot of bad blood on both sides that's going to carry forward into the future. I wrote an article during all this suggesting that the commissioner of Major League Baseball needs to resign. And I still think after this has been, because it hasn't been solved, it's what we have now is a framework to play baseball games. And the players are more or less showing up on the first for, I guess we'll call it summer training, for camp, feeling like they're being forced to do so entirely under the terms that the owners wanted. And we're about to watch an entire baseball season get played under either unofficial or perhaps even official protest by its own players.
It's pretty crazy.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Do the players want to play? Like, if they had a choice, yes or no, would the majority say yes or no, do you think?
I think the vast majority of them would say yes. Most baseball players aren't, super rich. There's a handful of guys that really sway the averages, but I looked this up the other day. It's like the typical, as opposed to the average, Major League Baseball player makes just under $2 million, which, again, a lot more money than any of us are going to see, but that's not quite what you think of. And so these guys, they don't have the endless resources that you might expect. And so, yeah, and even then, like, every guy I've talked to, like, they want to play baseball. This is what they do. It's just what they do with their summers.
Yeah.
They're like lost without it. I think that they just, we're being very mindful of how much leverage they were going to give up to the owners with the new CBA right around the corner of standing there and saying, I guess you guys can just do whatever you want and we'll just, bend the knee, as it were, if I may use a Game of Thrones term.
Drew, you've gone on 9 months of off season technically.
I think we're moving into month 10 here this week.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God, you must just be ready to get it going. We have someone who wrote in the comments, I think the Rockies have a nice chance to prove that our offense isn't cores based when this restart happens.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a big chance this year to bust a lot of myths when it comes to the Colorado Rockies and Coors Field and the hangover. One of the things that Patrick and I were diving into the details and sort of realizing in real time as we were talking about it yesterday, I think it was, is that every team's going to have to play 10 games against every team in their division. So the Rockies will play 10 games against the Dodgers, 10 against the Giants. But think about how series usually split up. They're 3-game, 4-game sets, and you have to go home and road. The only way to make it so that there's not a strength of schedule, which you really don't want in baseball this way, is to have like a 5-game homestand and then a 5-game road trip. And that
Against the same team.
Against the same team, right.
Wow.
Or maybe you do 5 games at home against the Dodgers, then you'd go 5 games in California at the Giants, then 5 games at the Padres, come back for 5 home games against the Giants or Padres to even it all out. Stuff like that, because otherwise, if you're doing 3 or 4 at a time, somebody's going to get more home games than the other team.
Well, couldn't you do a 3-game set and a 2-game set?
You could come up with some 2-game sets. I hate 2-game series with a passion, but they may
That's
do
the
something
most
like that.
baseball statement I've ever heard.
So a 2-game set, it's like, well, and it's also just the numbers are overwhelming. Like double headers, like sweeping a double header is just statistically incredibly unlikely, and so you're basically promising a coin flip when you do stuff like that in baseball. A tie, it's a tie. No one wants a tie. So yeah, one way or another, they're gonna have to get creative with how they do the schedules here, and that's going to change the nature of this whole Coors Field problem. Another thing that I'll mention that I don't think a lot of people will realize is that the Rockies have an inordinate number of players on their roster who have played in empty stadiums before. Everyone who was a member of the Yard Goats in 2014, 2015, that includes David Dahl, Ryan McMahon, Kyle Freeland, Raimel Tapia played in that environment, Carlos Estevez. These guys have actually gone through an entire season without having a single home game before, playing in empty arenas, which can feel weird. So I actually think that, yeah, this schedule probably benefits the Rockies as much as anybody in baseball.
Why would, he says, the commenter said they can prove that the offense isn't cores-based. Why?
I think because there's going to be more time for the hangover effect. I hate that term because it's slightly inaccurate, but to impact their road offense. Again, it's all going to be determined by how the schedule shakes out. But my guess is that homestands are going to be longer and road trips are going to be longer. And if that's the case, then the Coors Field hangover effect is going to be mitigated to a pretty dramatic extent. That would be my expectation.
So you go ahead, Rudo.
I was just going to say, if they do end up doing things like a 5-game homestand against the same team, how much does that affect the matchups? Like by the end of that 5-game homestand, teams are going to have very specific things that they're targeting, I would imagine.
Right. And, that's kind of the case with interdivisional play in baseball anyway. Bud Black is very fond of, it's always fun when the TV guys show up at the beginning of the year and they're playing the Diamondbacks and they go, big series against these Diamondbacks. You finished last year against them. What do you think? Divisional rivalry. And Bud's like, we're going to play these guys 19 times this year. And we played them 19 times last year. They're more or less the same team. We know what Zach Greinke does. Now, he's with Houston now, but you know what I mean? Paul Goldschmidt, now I use the wrong example because the Diamondbacks are changing everybody. But we know who the Dodgers are. The Rockies scouting report on Clayton Kershaw is 8 years old, and it just gets updated. You know what I mean? So it's like, on the one hand, yeah, that can happen. But that's why I'm glad they've done it the way they have, because by making you play 40 of your 60 games against your division, they're mitigating the weird matchup. Like if the Rockies just happen to have a dominant matchup over the Cincinnati Reds for whatever reason, and they happen to play them more in a shortened season, that would create a remarkable strength of schedule. At least here, you've got to play against the teams in your division, and everyone should be able to prove that they're at least the best or the second best team in their own division.
Speaking of pitching, we have the other Harrison in the DNVR family saying, so does this mean teams will roll a 4-man rotation?
This is a fascinating question, and one I hopefully get to pose in a soft fashion to one member of that rotation later this afternoon, because
In 30 minutes, in 29 minutes.
Yeah, that being Kyle Freeland, in case you guys missed that earlier. I don't know, because there's a lot about the stamina of pitching that's game to game, and a lot of it that's over the course of the season. So I'll be very curious to ask the athlete and say, can you, knowing you're going to make 12 starts this year instead of 30, can you go max effort in those games? Can you go deeper into games? And if you're pitching into the 8th, does that mean that, then you still need your 5-man rotation? With the Rockies bullpen still being kind of a question mark, what I would see more likely is doing like a 4-man rotation of your 4 strongest guys and making that 5th day, if you've done it right, like an all hands on deck bullpen day, rather than relying on, say, a Jeff Hoffman or a Chichi Gonzalez, an unexciting 5th rotation guy. Like, those guys become part of the team you expect to tackle that 5th day, and you worry less about it destroying your bullpen in the long term. But to pull that off, your 4 starting pitchers need to pitch really well.
All I hear is Scott Oberg's getting a start, baby.
That'd be dope.
Go listen at 3 o'clock on DNVR _Rockies if you're on Periscope, and then it'll be on the same YouTube channel for everyone on YouTube and Facebook. But you can listen to Drew talk to Kyle Freeland. Before I want to get Drew's take on mascots, so we're gonna jump into a break. The sports landscape is ever-changing, and this week is no different. Luckily for all of us sports fans, DraftKings Sportsbook has us covered, and for a limited time, DraftKings Sportsbook is offering a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. I gotta say, thanks to DraftKings, I am actually paying attention to certain sports that I probably wouldn't have. Like golf, I'm actually interested in watching golf right now and in the tournaments that I definitely would have not said that a year ago. But with that, Ryan, do you have any picks that you give us, 1 or 2 picks that you recommend the people take?
Oh man, you're really putting me on the spot there.
Sorry.
Something I've been really liking recently is the matchups and then the over-unders of the golfers. So I can't give you any right now because we're going to have to see how the matchups shake out for the weekend. But you can see, let's say Bryson DeChambeau is playing with Phil Mickelson. You can bet on which one of those guys will have the better score that day. That's always really fun. And then I've been playing the over-unders for these guys. They set them around 66.5. So whatever golfers you're confident in going low, then you can go there. I'm on Bryson DeChambeau to go under 66.5 today. He's 2 under with 3 to go, so I need a couple birdies here at the end here. But there's tons. The golf, there are tons of options on what you can bet on. So check it out for the weekend once they get those pairings.
See, I've been watching a lot of Premier League too, and that's just at a really nice time at noon, at 11. You can be working instead of having to bet on the KBO and not actually being able to watch it unless you just liked being up at 3 a.m. for it. But one thing that Eric D-Line Co. said is we need some bets from DraftKings on the Oddcast coming up next week.
Oh, the Oddcast Cup.
The Oddcast Cup, my apologies.
Which
is going to be RK and Hank versus Vic Lombardi and Mosier Wednesday. Fossil Trace. It's going to be a great time. My money's on RK and Henry, but maybe that's
all in on
biased.
Team Podcast, baby. All in.
Let's go. Yeah, me and Henry have been like Rocky out here, putting in the work, getting ready for this. So we're gonna put in a good showing.
What are you guys doing? $500 for charity, or?
Yes, $500 to charity of the winning team's choice. So that's pretty solid stakes there. Excited about that.
Don't forget to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code DNVR when you sign up. For a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Like I was saying, that's code DNVR to get that sign-up bonus up to $1,000 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match. Each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700. I got people commenting about the Oddcast. Hank will post the highlights on his Tinder. That is probably very true.
We'll be like live streaming it too, right?
I don't think we're gonna live stream the entire thing, but there will be lots of live
tweeting. Yeah, because like I said it on DNBA show, live streaming the whole game would be a little boring, I think. So we're going to try and find fun ways to do it, but definitely stay tuned to DNVR_sports on Twitter to get all the updates on that. All right, before Drew has to leave us, I saw this tweet last week, and I was going to bring it up, but our podcast ran way too long last week, about who the most beloved mascot in Colorado is. And so I wanted to pose that question to you guys first, and then get your takes on, do you like mascots? Do you think mascots should have more personality, like a gritty style, or is that too much? So let's start with you, RK. I already know your answer, but who do you think is the most beloved mascot in Colorado?
I feel like this has to be one of those things, like if you're doing, if you're saying, like, hey, you're drafting the NFL, who would you pick first? Like, you have to say, like, you're not allowed to pick Patrick Mahomes. You have to pick someone else. Because the answer to this, you have to say, like, you're not allowed to pick Ralphie. Because Ralphie is by far the most dominant mascot in here. It's not even close. The best mascot in the world is Ralphie. And so I don't even think that there has to be a discussion there. I think we have to frame this discussion by saying you can't choose Ralphie.
All right. Does everyone else agree that it's Ralphie?
There's no need for that.
Strong agree.
It's not Ralphie.
Okay. So Harrison agrees. Drew and Rudo are against it. So let's go, Rudo. Who is the most beloved mascot in Colorado, in your opinion?
It's far and away the one that no longer exists in Howler. Everybody is absolutely in love with Howler, who was essentially just a Yeti that got to hang around with the Avalanche, was the best mascot by a long shot, and the only reason he doesn't exist is because he got fired for beating up a Red Wings fan.
Ooh,
that seems like an offense you should not get fired for. That seems like a perfectly fine thing to do during your work schedule.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like in my 6 years in Colorado, I have never heard of that.
Well, that's because Howler was gone before you got here.
Yeah,
I'm aware. But if he was so beloved, you'd think people would still bring him up, talk about the good old days.
People bring him up all the time. You just don't run in the right circle, I guess, because every time Bernie comes on the Avs cast, it's like, bring back Howler. Everyone starts yelling for Howler every time Bernie shows up. So,
all right, so Rudo's for Howler. Drew?
Okay, my hot take on this is that mascots are bad, and I don't like them. I also don't like, I'm really not into real animals as mascots, hence my no on the route. Like, I don't like the real animals as mascots thing. The only mascot that I've ever found in the least bit compelling is Super Mascot Rocky of the Denver Nuggets, because he actually does stuff. Like, he'll make a over his back shot, and he'll run and jump and climb up on stuff and do acrobatic things, and like, he at least does things that are entertaining and is mildly less irritating than all of the other mascots that get in the way when I'm trying to watch my sports game.
But why do they get in the way? Ralphie runs before.
He's only thinking like this because he has to watch Dinger 81 games a year.
Yeah, Drew is exposed to maybe the worst mascot in all of sports on a daily basis.
That may have something to do with it.
The reason that this is a conversation is because I saw that tweet and Dinger was in Colorado.
Yeah, Dinger. Yeah.
Baseball
And
is the
so I
one
was like-
sport where you just absolutely do not need a mascot. Like,
Yeah.
you can make the argument that, yeah, there's a lot of downtime in like the NBA and the NHL. You can probably use something to preoccupy the fans a little bit, but like baseball, there's no need for a mascot in baseball. Absolutely none.
Also, if you're gonna have a mascot, you would have them, or like they do have Dinger, obviously, but you'd have him do more things like the tooth trot. Like I know it's an advertising deal, but get him in there. Like actually, like you were saying with Rocky, he does things. You're laughing at him. It's more entertaining. With Dinger, he's just like walking around hugging people.
If you're going in, go all in, right? Like the KBO has cheerleaders and stuff. The Rockies just have a mascot and nothing else going on. It's like,
Okay, but what's being missed here, because none of us have kids, is that the mascots aren't for us. They're for kids and for people to be able to like keep their kids entertained when they don't understand the nuances of war and WRC plus.
Sure. No, I get that. I was horrified by mascots as a kid, and so it's just
Me
one of
too,
those-
actually. Me too.
Like I'd really prefer you not come up and give me a great big old hug. 'Cause you're scaring the hell out of
Sweaty,
me.
smelly.
They're very handsy. Our mascots, they're very handsy.
I feel like there might need to be an investigation.
Oh God. Well, but okay. So we talked about how certain mascots don't do anything. Do we think some mascots do too much? We have someone saying Gritty, or Eric is saying Gritty is the greatest. But I think Gritty is so well known because of how Philadelphia and intense and just like a lot.
If you have a mascot who has like a shtick, like Gritty has a shtick, I think even Rocky does. Like Rocky does a ton of stuff, but he also has those little feuds he's gotten into with players, which I think is like the best part about him and the best thing he's done. If your mascot has a specific shtick, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Unless it's the Philly Fanatic.
Yeah, someone said Philly Fanatic terrified me as a child.
The
I
Philly
wasn't
Fanatic
allowed to be
terrifies me
scared
as
of
an
it.
adult.
I wasn't allowed to be scared of it because the animal is based off an animal from Ecuador. So my dad was always like, "Yay, good, Ecuador representation," and I'm like, "Okay."
Not only based off it, but the story says it was born in Ecuador, right?
Yeah, it was born in the Galapagos Islands. It's based off of a bird. Eric in the comment is like, "How am I not in this?" and is giving his whole opinion.
Oh,
so
wait, just prepare yourself for
no.
Eric to come in and make this a whole
we're about
branding
to play
thing.
Pictionary
Oh.
mascot edition.
all right, well, we're bringing him in, giving his input.
You guys know about branding?
Yeah.
Never heard of it, actually.
Here's the thing. Your mascot is for children if it's done poorly. Like,
Oh.
Dinger has nothing to... like, if you make something that only children like, then you've done the wrong thing. Mr. Met is iconic. Philly Fanatic, iconic. Gritty, iconic.
No one's-
The San Diego Chicken, iconic. And they,
No one over the
What is the San Diego
What?
chicken?
I don't know.
from the Padres. Drew, what's wrong with you?
Okay, hold
San
on.
Diego chicken?
Yeah.
You made that up.
Aren't you talking about the fryer?
No, well, that's like, you don't remember the chicken. Drew, what kind of baseball ambassador are you?
Have I not made
Okay.
it clear my aversion to the mascot so far?
And also, I also have a
Drew
bone to
doesn't
pick.
want to know anything about that.
Hold on. Before you
Not-
pick your
not
bone, I'm
mascot.
picking my bone. No one, it doesn't matter how iconic this mascot is, no one over the age of, I don't know, 11 is like on the way to the ballpark being like, I can't wait to see Mr. Met. Like,
No, but they
I don't
might.
think any
But
children in Philadelphia is excited to see Gritty. I think children are scared of him.
Gritty.
Wait, but you're-
Gritty
you're-
is an adult mascot.
yeah, that's just it. Like, your mascot can
Yeah,
either
Gritty's
can either-
catering to like the 20 to 30 male demographic.
yes, but the
Like
thing is, like,
hitting people.
your mascot should add to your team, not just be like there. Like, it shouldn't feel like you were required to do it. You didn't think about it until the night before, so you're like, let's make a purple dinosaur that looks like Barney
Yeah, they're
to,
like,
to
"You remember
represent our
Barney?"
brand.
Do that.
All right, and here's my bone to pick is that the
I already-
mascot for CU is not Ralphie. It is
Yes, it
Chip.
is. No.
Chip is the mascot for CU, and he sucks rocks. All right,
No.
I'll see you guys later.
Chip is.
No, he's right. There's one of those is an
Cam is
animal,
way
and the other is a
worse.
mascot.
It
Oh,
would
absolutely.
Cam not be their mascot
I went to
either,
CSU
since
and Cam
is
is
their-
terrible.
Cam,
They're
they have
both
they
called
have
Cam,
mascot
which is so dumb.
Cam, but there's like the animal, like, I don't think that the mascot is the animal. Like, as Drew was saying, like, that's not like
What is the mascot of the Texas Longhorns? It's Bevo. It's the
yeah,
same
but
thing.
there is the actual animal, and then there's the guy, the male cheerleader in the suit.
And they both take the L. Got it.
Only teams that can't have the actual animal say that the thing in a costume is the mascot.
But how do you explain Chip?
Chip is just there for the kids.
But why is he not Ralphie then? Why is he a separate entity?
It's because you cannot have Ralphie in a basketball arena.
But why not just name the guy?
I think it also goes the question, if you ask anyone, who's CU's mascot, not even just people from CU, they would say Ralphie. Like, that's just
and they're wrong.
Half of the CU student body does not know who Chip is.
Eric's only saying
you know
this
what? Actually,
because he's
that is
jealous
a
of
lie.
Ralphie.
The world knows who Chip is after he shot a cannon at himself, and it made.
Yeah. See, that's something to be proud of. Chip shot himself in the nether regions with a T-shirt cannon. That's something to be proud of.
Manscaped himself right there.
He actually didn't. He hit himself in like the liver. It was actually quite dangerous.
Yeah, no, actually, I was on the field when that happened. I was working with Pac-12, and we had, people rushed over. He also fainted after being hit from heat exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole big thing.
I think there needs to be a human rights investigation into making people wear these costumes. Because I've literally seen Chip have to exit a basketball arena and throw up because it was so hot.
And he's getting paid $3.50 an hour.
Well, consider the guys that show up at the Bronco games wearing 800 pom-poms. That's got to be a million times hotter, right?
That's true, but they're doing that on their own volition.
Yeah, I noticed no one has brought up Miles.
This story has convinced me Chip is the worst mascot in Colorado.
We don't need Chip because
Dinger is way worse, and Cam is also meh. I feel like that's where I wanted this discussion to go. How important are mascots to? Is it just for the kids? Is that where we think mascots are, or is it the branding? As Eric is on here.
No one actually. If you're gonna have that conversation, the only mascot that you can claim I went to the game and I remembered something about what the mascot did is Ralphie, but beyond that, it's Rocky.
It's 1,000% Rocky.
You'll leave a
no
game
one remembers Ralphie running around at the start of games. I'm sorry, but nobody remembers.
Are you kidding me? People
That's probably the worst take I've ever heard.
Yeah, people run to make sure that if you're going to a Buffs game, you have to see Ralphie run. That's just something that
maybe the people that go to the games, but the majority of Colorado does not care. I guarantee it.
On.
Well, the people. Why would it matter the people that don't go to the games? It's only for the people that do go to the games. I would be willing to make.
You're going to make me bring up branding like Eric now. We're going to get into some real big trouble.
I bet you if we did a poll on Twitter,
you're my man, Rudo.
You would be wrong.
Here's what I'll say: if you were to see what is the most recorded mascot ever, what has the most videos and pictures on phones in the whole world, it would be Ralphie.
I take that bet any day. Give me the anything but Ralphie bet on that one.
Harrison, what do you think? The other is it a Buffs bias that we have? What do you think, Harrison?
Oh yeah, I wonder if that's what it is.
No, Ralphie's the GOAT. I mean, we all know that.
Cam is closer
Clearly,
to the GOAT.
Eric doesn't know that. And neither does Rudo.
Cam is definitely not on the list, but it ain't Ralphie either.
It's so embarrassing when they run Ralphie out and it's this big, powerful beast, and then two cheerleaders have Cam on a leash and walk him across the field.
Remember when Cam passed away before a Rocky Mountain Showdown game? I remember that. That was pretty sad.
This got dark.
R.I.P.
But see, and if it was an actual mascot, that would have been a much bigger story.
I actually agree, though. Whenever Ralphie running is the coolest thing in the world, and it's so cool to see that. But if she is sick or the weather can't permit it, then they put Chip in they act like Chip is running, and that is so bad. You're
I don't think anybody would be upset if Chip
the rodeo or the stock show where you can go watch that every weekend.
You can watch.
Where can you see a buffalo run 200 yards at the stock show?
They can run in circles. Pretty straightforward.
They can run in
You can
circles.
even watch a
You
human being get in there and rope a calf. Like,
Yeah, but those are cows.
I mean,
This has got to be
they're
the-
just it's all beasts of burden.
This is a top 3 dumbest debate we've ever had on this podcast.
Well, that's
Let's
why I
talk about
wanted to get
Love
it out of
and
the way
Blind.
during the end of this quarantine month that we have
Here's my
of
mascot.
topic.
Oh, look at
I
this
agree.
Mascot.
My contention
I
with
agree.
mascots
We're
is
taking
that
Rudo to Folsom next season. We're
Not
getting
allowed.
and I'll be getting my beer while Ralphie runs because there won't be any line. It'll be perfect.
I'm
I can't believe
insulted.
what a close kinship I feel.
Go
to Rudo.
away! You're being so annoying.
This is a tough bit that he's trying to carry out.
Rudo got canceled.
But my thing about mascots, and I actually
Everyone agreed. Drew
I think
had
about
the best
mascots
one.
all the time because that's like one of my specialties is creating them for whatever reason. But like if it's like makes your team cooler, it's a great mascot. If it makes your
Look.
team like
Look
if
at what
it's
you
not-
did, Rudo.
like there are mascots that add to the team, and there are mascots that just exist.
I think there's one mascot in Colorado that adds to the team. It's
Yep.
Ralphie.
Yeah.
No,
Look
it's
at
super mascot
Rocky.
Rocky.
I do not. What does Rocky add to the Nuggets?
He hits a half court shot that is iconic.
It's
But what-
dope. He
No
does
one
What
that.
does that
outside
add
of
to the
Denver.
Nuggets, though? Nothing.
No one
Rock-
outside
Rock-
of Denver has even ever brought that up.
Not even true. No, he also is like well known for being in fights with Charles Barkley. Super Mascot Rocky literally wins the mascot competition every year. He's the
Okay,
greatest.
I
Like,
just
All the
I
other
just gotta-
mascots come to his
look at
birthday.
JC.
Come on.
yeah, that's true.
Look at JC. I live in Greeley. I've never been to a UNC game, but that would change if they came out behind a live bear. Like,
Yeah, a
the
live bear
coolest
would,
part
would
about
take the
Best
top
mascot.
spot.
Ralphie
for sure.
is a live animal that you're just the team's coming out of. It's so dope.
So outside of teams that you yourself root for, who is your what is your favorite mascot? Do you guys just like not like the idea of a mascot in general?
I mean, Gritty's great, but then
fun to
other
make
than that, like all the live mascots are the coolest.
Yeah, the
Like
live mascots are
Tiger,
I like the bulldog, Georgia
Bevo.
bulldog.
yeah, Uga,
Okay.
but none of them are as cool as the live buffalo.
I'll tell you, the worst mascot is the Notre Dame dude.
Oh,
The Notre Dame
sure.
leprechaun who has to dress up every game. Like, is he just thinking to himself, why am I the only mascot that's not dressed up? Like, how did I get the short end of the stick?
Oh,
That he is the worst mascot in sports.
it also
Oh,
might
God,
be like
the images.
slightly problematic that they just like go up to some guy who has a red beard on campus and they're like, "Hey,
Right.
do you want a job?"
Like, I would love to see the audition for that thing. It's just 20 guys who look the exact same.
Hold on, I'm getting it up for people to see. Someone said Stanford is the worst mascot. That's
Yeah,
true.
the cardinal. Yeah,
The
and it's
lip-
just a tree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this guy.
That's just a guy from a Halloween party.
Yeah. Man.
So do you guys know what the definition of a mascot here? It's a person or thing that is supposed to bring good luck or that is used to symbolize a particular
guy.
event or organization.
There's
good
no
luck.
way this guy brings any good luck to Notre Dame. No way.
I like that the actual the drawing, his hair is black, but then they made sure to be as
Oh yeah.
stereotypical. Yeah, the tree is
What are
simultaneously
these pictures?
This was
the
a-
Stanford tree.
This was 100% made by someone who was tripping acid.
For the people listening to this podcast and not watching it, we just Googled Stanford mascot and the picture. Just go do it. Go Google
Don't
it.
Google
This
it
looks
if
like
you are
an
on
8th
it,
grade
sure.
paper
Google it
mache
if you're
project.
on anything.
Oh yeah. Oh, pull up Cal's mascot. It's almost just as bad. It's like Winnie the Pooh.
Actually, if you want to be won over by a
Oh
mascot,
God, what is that?
No.
Please, no. That is terrifying.
This
that was
is
not made
terrifying and creepy.
for children.
Yeah.
This was not made for children.
that looks
is
like
scary.
that looks like Winnie the Poop.
It's like Winnie the Pooh like went down the wrong path.
If you want to be swept up and
This is
honestly
Winnie
love
the
a
Pooh on a
mascot,
bender.
They
Dad,
fell in with the wrong crowd.
do look for Dartmouth's mascot. They have the best mascot in the world, and I know that you'll all love it.
Don't do jokes.
I must leave the rest of this conversation in all of your very capable hands. as I am 5 minutes away from our interview with Kyle Freeland over on DNVR Rockies.
Ask him about mascots.
I'm going to ask him
what
if he's
his
pro.
true feelings are on Dinger.
I'll see if I can get that out of him.
Why do you say
named
Ding-
Dinger? It's not.
Why do you say Dinger with such a hard G?
I
Dinger.
don't know.
I like it.
Do you say that when someone hits a jack?
How
Drew.
do I say it without by Drew?
I actually
Okay.
just thought of the worst mascot in the NBA. A couple years ago, the New Orleans Pelicans came out with the Cake Baby, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Wow.
The mascot is literally straight out of like a Chucky movie.
Look at
I don't
this.
know if you want to pull that up, Allie.
Look at the
but
Dartmouth mascot, Keggy the Keg.
this is an incredible mascot.
No, that's
I know.
top tier. Yeah, that is top
I
tier.
told you you would be swept up and would change your opinion on all mascots based on the
Who
Dartmouth
was
mascot.
it?
That
who
is
was
for the
saying,
kids.
Harrison?
The Pelicans, baby, the
Baby
Yeah,
cake?
King. I think it was King Baby.
King
King
Cake
Baby.
Baby.
mascot?
I think it was just called King Baby.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
that's
no.
the one.
That
So,
is full on Chucky.
so a group of Pelicans employees
King
actually sat in a room and decided that this was a good idea.
Well,
Oh
you know
my
what
God,
this
the
is based
crown-
on,
The
right?
crown kind of looks like the crown you drew for AJ.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you guys know what this is based on, right? Like the Mardi Gras, you eat the king cake, and if you find a baby in it. Do you not know about this?
Yeah, I know that story.
I knew about king cake. I didn't know about finding a baby in
Yeah,
the cake.
they
Yeah,
put like
they
these weird little
make a
plastic
cake.
babies
Yeah.
in the
Oh.
cake, which seems dangerous,
It's like
but
the whole Mardi Gras tradition.
I would love to meet the person who saw what the mock-up of that mascot was going to like. Like, that looks great. Let's
That's
go with
it.
that.
it looks like
Yep.
remember
You
Garbage
You did it
Pail Kids?
again.
Right.
Let's do it.
Again,
Dinger.
for everyone listening to this in audio form, just go look up some of these mascots and you will agree with our reactions. We've got people in the comments saying this is terrifying. Last week we had such a nice and peaceful the Denver Sports Podcast. Forgot what podcast we were on there. It's been a long day. And this week we're just scaring you with some really gross mascots.
What's it like to cover a sport with decent mascots? Because outside of gritty, all of hockey's are terrible.
What is the best mascot in hockey?
I've got the
It's
best.
definitely gritty.
Oh yeah. Sorry, what a dumb question.
I've got the best mascot of all, and that's Knucklehead.
I was gonna say.
True.
Yeah.
Oh. And that's how we end the show. But all right, I feel like that was all right. Good. We learned we don't like mascots. We all have different opinions on it. We
I
have
love
takes.
them.
They're kids.
And-
We all have different opinions on this topic.
Rudo hates Ralphie and sunsets and cold beers and
And
I mean,
and-
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
yeah, and everyone that went to see you is a chip denier.
we don't
I
acknowledge
think
Chip.
that's everyone.
No, I actually,
everyone
yeah,
agrees.
I don't really get the point of Chip, but yeah.
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 It's for the kids. It's for the
He
kids.
could come or go.
We learned that Rudo hates love.
Wait, I better tell my wife that one.
I'm sure she knows.
Probably.
All right. Well, before we finish up, I encourage you all, and I encourage you guys all to drink more beer. I'm about to crack mine open from.
Ooh.
That was a little bit of a mess. You're drinking beers, drinking alcohol. Don't forget to take care of your teeth, folks. It's so important, and if you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam at Green Mountain Dental Group, you'll receive a free Sonicare toothbrush. Don't forget to tweet at us when you go to Green Mountain Dental, because showing them support really helps us, and we want to show them what an amazing community we have. So don't forget to call Green Mountain Dental Group today and schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam so you can get your amazing Sonicare toothbrush for free. And we have the one and only Harrison Wind here, who loves electric toothbrushes and talks about them so well on DNVR show.
It's a game changer. Absolute
You can
game
vouch.
changer.
Game changer, just like Strava craft coffee. All right. Well, we are going to pick up a sampler pack from Davidson's today. Oh yeah.
The Jokic pack is what I hear some people call it.
Many
Oh.
are calling it. Many are
Jokic
calling it
pack?
that.
It's because it's got a little bit of everything, like Jokic does.
It's because it's got.
No, the he's talking about picking. Oh no, he's picking up the sampler pack. But you
Yeah,
can
it's
also pick up a 15 can of Mile High City
It's time
Lager.
to bring
He's
the
number
Vanilla Porter
15.
Jr. off
Yeah.
the bench, okay?
He's number 15, and he's developed what we can only assume is a 15-pack ready for the beach.
Confirmed. Yeah.
Vanilla Porter Jr. off the bench, but I also got to say Mango Mosaic off the bench. If you go to the DNVR bar, get a Mango Mosaic on tap, and it is so good.
I feel like we could work the Mango Mosaic into a Monte Morris type.
Yeah,
beer.
we'll work on that.
The mango, it's the perfect
Monte
beer for
Mosaic.
when you're already
Yeah.
buzzed.
Yeah.
What did you say, Rudo?
It's the perfect beer when you're already buzzed.
Oh,
Because
I like
it's
that.
it's not
Monte
super
Mosaic.
alcoholic, but it tastes delicious,
Mango-
and it's
Mango
enough to
Morris.
keep you going.
Yeah, ever since I've learned about beer, I've learned that if you find the word session involved in your beer, it means that they're made for you to just drink a ton of them. So,
You mean Saison?
no, a session beer. A
Session
saison is
lager.
different. Yeah, if you're looking for things to just crush, look for the word session.
Yeah, because you're just gonna have a session.
Yeah, just a drink as a
drinking
drink
as many of
sesh.
them as possible.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Jokic pack, we do have to talk about some real news on the podcast.
Oh, we're not done?
today.
Yeah, I thought that was the
Sorry. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on, and then we'll head out of here. Technically, we have 15 minutes. It is technically an hour podcast, so...
There's times on
Well-
podcasts.
Oh, yeah. You guys wouldn't know if you do 2.5 hour podcasts, like,
Well,
consistently.
there's not. The idea that there's minimum times is probably very confusing to you.
Yeah, I thought you just talk until you lose your voice.
Anyways, you messed up my really great transition of the Jokic pack to us finding out this week that Nikola Jokic did test positive for COVID-19 in Serbia, but he is asymptomatic. Harrison, do you have any more info on that?
Well, the Nuggets hope to get him back here shortly. I was told in about a week plus or minus a few days from when that report broke. So, sometime in the early part of next week or Thursday, Friday, I think he should be back in Denver. But yeah, he's asymptomatic. He'll just have to obviously test negative in Serbia before coming back here. The Nuggets leave for Disney World July 7th, so they just really need him back here before then.
So the NBA started their mandatory testing of players before they head to Disney World, and 16 players tested positive. We're seeing that with the Rockies also. There was 3 players who tested positive, but a good amount of players were apparently working out at Coors, and of that, only 3 tested positive. We've seen some Broncos. I feel like we're going to see a lot of people test positive. And I feel like a lot of people get nervous about that. And maybe that's because of the unknown of the whole situation, even if they're asymptomatic later on. But do you guys think this is just going to become something common, that there's a lot of people are going to begin testing positive?
Totally. I mean, there's a lot of sticker shock to it right now still, but I think in a month from now, because the league came back and said 16 guys tested positive, which I think if you're the league, you're pretty happy with that. You're like, all right, it's not a huge number.
Yeah.
And now they're testing every other day, so there may be a couple others that trickle out, but I feel like right now they've got it pretty under control.
What's really interesting is what's going on in the PGA Tour right now, where you're seeing a lot of players take themselves out of competitions without even testing positive, just out of precaution. And it's something that the PGA has kind of, I don't know if encouraged, but they've just said, like, let's be extra, extra, extra cautious about anything. So if you played with a guy who tests positive, you should withdraw. And they're not telling people they have to do it. And one guy didn't today. He played with a guy yesterday who tested positive today. He didn't pull himself out. But 3 or 4 guys have just said, you know what? I played a practice round with him. He tested positive. I'm out. It'll be interesting to see how that translates to other sports. Golf is such an individual sport that you can take that type of person-to-person caution. But if an NBA player test positive, you're not probably going to see 4 players who are like, oh, we were playing pickup with him yesterday, we should pull out. I'll do that, or else you will see whole teams, not able to compete. So it'll just be interesting to see. To go to your original question, people are, for better or for worse, are going to have to get used to seeing this without being shocked every time it happens, because we're seeing it across every sport. And Brandon made a really good point on Twitter the other day, which he said, okay, all athletes are now being tested, and we're seeing tons of positive tests, which probably would tell you what would happen if all people in the world were tested. It's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of players who test positive.
And we are seeing those numbers spike with more testing available for everyone, but definitely athletes. We haven't seen much of that in the hockey world, but we do know that 3 of the Avs players or people in the Avs organization, or was it confirmed 3 Avs players had it?
3 Avs players had it, but they tested positive back at the beginning of the
when
shutdown.
this all started. Yeah,
so they were ahead of the curve. Last weekend, or maybe it was the weekend before, as the NHL started up their testing as well, there were 11 players around the league that tested positive. So it's not anything new, certainly.
Yeah, I think the numbers
have to go through. Yeah,
I think the numbers in college are what's going to shock a lot of people because those kids are. I mean, we can all look back onto our college days. Like my brother's going back to school next in a month, and I'm just like, oh well, it feels like it's a little inevitable of it happening in college. And I mean, we saw that with a few schools saying 33 players, 17 players all in one team have tested positive. So like we said, getting used to that number just going up is going to be a little bit of our new norm. But I feel like people are so scared. They get so worried, even if they're asymptomatic. But then there's another good amount of people who are kind of like, well, good, better get it now than later during the season, because we have seen that you keep
getting it.
Well, some people
is never good, right? But if you do end up getting it, especially for the leagues, players getting it now is much better than once everyone gets to their hub city, or for NBA once everyone gets to Disney. The first positive case once leagues start up again is going to be a much different conversation than people getting it right now.
Yeah, I feel like it's a slippery slope, because if the NBA is at Disney World and say like the Lakers and Nuggets are facing off in the Western Conference Finals, and 9 people on the Nuggets have already had it, but only 1 guy on the Lakers has had it. Like, I just feel like there's just going to be a different level of, I just feel like it's going to be a weird dynamic. Like, are Nuggets players going to be, like, less stressed about potentially picking it up in the bubble, or Lakers players going to be, under a stricter quarantine in a bubble scenario because none of them have had it already? Mm-hmm. I feel like it's just a kind of a slippery slope there.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we just don't know enough. We don't know if having it, how much that actually protects you. We don't know what can happen to you later in life if you get it. All that stuff is what really makes this scary, and what makes the return to play, very interesting, because they say that some people are able to build an immunity by getting it, but not everyone, and who knows. We haven't had enough time to really know that yet. So it's just, I don't know. All I can say is that it would be extremely Nuggets of the Nuggets to make the Western Conference Finals and then have half the Lakers team out and the Nuggets win, and everyone's talking about how it doesn't really count. But we'll embrace that.
I think something else that we don't really know necessarily about is, even if you're asymptomatic, how that does affect necessarily your conditioning, your workout plan. If it does affect some sort of your lungs and it's hard to breathe, or how tired you get, if you're getting tired more easily, that all comes into play when these athletes are in games. So that'll be really interesting.
This is LeBron's chance to really cement his place as, or to stake his claim as the GOAT. If he can outdo Michael Jordan's flu game with the LeBron COVID-19 game.
Oh, Jesus.
He'd not be allowed out there.
Yeah.
He'd be like, get him out.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but it is crazy. Like there's obviously a real desire to return to normalcy, not just for the emotional and the psychological part of what it is that we're going through, but I mean, you see like institutions, things that you thought would be around your entire life, like Chuck E. Cheese is having to now shutter its doors because they're not making money. Like commerce has stopped.
Yeah, that's okay on the whole.
Another mascot.
I brought that up because of the mascots, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, there's real implications, real life implications that go beyond.
But the NBA and all these sports leagues are not coming back because we need sports as a community. That's not the reason they're coming back. They're
Well,
coming back
I think that there's part of that. Like,
I think
mean,
that has zero to do with it.
You don't think so?
Honest.
No, not the community part. The commerce part. Like places like DNVR that covers the league and all of these ancillary things that sort of like are. I mean, that's sort of the impetus to like get a lot of this moving. If you were just looking at it from a health perspective, there's no reason on earth that we should be playing games. Right?
I just
So
think
like,
if financially, like the NBA was not going to be impacted at all by not having a playoffs, there's no way they would be coming back. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That is the sole and number one only reason why the NBA is coming back. That's it.
Or any league.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reasons why a lot of things are coming back are because of money. And you can debate that till the cows come home. But, yeah, I mean, I think that it's a nice secondary benefit that people are going to have something to look forward to and get excited about and be happy about, as those things, especially for sports fans, and everyone in the world has been affected by this. But, you know, for us, we rely so much on sports for everything we do in our lives, and it has been weird for it to go away. So if they are going to come back, I think it will definitely be nice for people to get that secondary benefit of it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think we have had a chance to see, like we were talking about earlier with betting and sports, DraftKings Sportsbook, is the fact that there are other places in other countries trying to get this done and have been doing it for a while. The KBO, the Premier League, just started last week. Golf. So it's not like the NBA, NHL, MLB are going to be the first ones to kind of dive into this. We have seen it okay in other sports in other countries. So hopefully that same thing translates in the United States. But we're extremely hopeful because we can't wait to have you guys at the DNVR bar for watch parties and hanging out again and feeling, like Eric was saying, a part of that community, because we miss that like no other. And I know a lot of our subscribers, members do as well. So hopefully we get to see you all soon at the DNVR bar for a watch party. But even before that, definitely go down there this weekend, grab a beer, grab a Breck Brew, hang out. We will probably be sprinkling in throughout the weekend. So, and let us know when you go there. And yeah, do you guys have anything else to say before I close out?
Nope.
I think you said it well.
Go watch Kyle Freeland on the DNVR Rockies podcast and leave us any comments or questions if you want us to answer those next week. And have a great weekend, everyone. Oh, I almost forgot to do what I always do, but we got it. I didn't forget this time. Happy Friday. We'll see you guys next week.